this is a little bit of a sloppy setup, but I will be doing my best here. So anyway, so the asset table. We're going to be making that today's topic. So we got an asset table. And so what that's going to be is we're going to have some file that is going to be a collection of all the data for all of our assets. There's not going to be like one God asset table file where everything is in there, but it will like there's going to be distinct asset files for the sounds / music and the textures and the model data. So things that are imported into exported from Blender or something like that will be saved to this asset table. And so there was a lot of things that I wanted to work on tonight, but I decided to pick something that's relatively simple for my first live stream. And just some background, a little bit about my setup. So directly in front of me, I have a tablet monitor with a webcam on top of it. To my right is my primary monitor, the one that I'm going to be looking at the most, and my editor, the debugger, and the reclaimer is going to be running over there. And if you see me looking over to my left, I have my laptop that I'm just watching the stream and just making sure things aren't glitching out. And it looks like we have somebody joining us, so please let me know how the audio is, like if the music's too loud or something like that. I think it might be a little bit too loud in my ears, actually, but welcome. And we're going to go ahead and talk more about the asset table. So what an asset file is going to look like. So when I say asset table, it's essentially a synonym for asset file. And so what I'm thinking that's going to look like is you're going to have something called like, it's going to be reclaimer textures, and there's going to be like a specific extension that is for the game called like RAF, which will stand for like reclaimer asset file. And so what these asset files are going to contain is a static header, which tells me all of the information that is going to be in the file. So for instance, we'll say that this is a struct, and it's going to be a reclaimer asset file header. I'll try to shorthand these while I'm writing, so I'm not spending all of my time writing and we can just get straight to it. But anyway, so the reclaimer asset file header, there will be like maybe a byte that will say like what type it is. And so the types could be, let's say it's going to be, there will be sounds, models, textures, and on and on. So in this byte, inside of this header, it's just going to tell us, what that type is essentially. And when we move on, there's gonna be a like we'll say a type of like enumeration that's like, hey, these are all of the specific assets for that type. So for instance, I introduced my main character, Adam. And so there will be like Adam, there will be, like skyboxes. I say those two because those are the only real two assets that I have like working in the game right now. And what it's going to do is for each one of those, there's going to be an offset and a size. And so this is going to be the header that, as soon as the game starts, on game startup, it's going to, and I'm going to know how big this asset file header type is. Like, it is going to be some in bytes, right? And so it's just going to serialize that to this header in that file. And what it's going to do is it's going to tell me the location of all of the different assets that are in that file. So if I want to retrieve like Adam's texture, I'm going to have to go to a certain index, like this offset within the file, plus this number of bytes, and that's how big it is, and it'll serialize it directly to like a texture struct. Right. And so that's just the basic idea. And so the reason why I'm doing this is let's go ahead and actually dive into code. Sorry if that took a little too long, but we're going to... Okay, are we back? Okay, I really hope I wasn't muted the whole time. That would make me sad. But anyway, if there's anybody in the chat, now would be a good time to ask questions. Probably just give it a couple of minutes to get to the 7 o'clock mark, and we'll just go from there. Cool? Right. And I know I'm narrating a lot for not a ton of people being here, but, you know, this is kind of an archive. I want to, you know, this is how things are going to be going for future live streams. So if anybody's watching this in the future, you know, I just appreciate anybody who's taking a look at this right now. I am completely new to this process of streaming content. And just sort of, I'm going to be doing my best to keep my finger on the pulse for things that are actually entertaining in terms of, like, documenting game development. So, is there anybody in the chat? It looks like we've only got one other person. Yeah, we'll just give it a minute, and I'm just going to sip on a little bit of water. Just get ready to talk again. I spent the first hour going over my intentions for this next push, like this next feature that I want to put into the Reclaimer. And it's essentially like this asset file type that will contain all of the asset data that is serialized exactly as the Reclaimer needs it. So, like, if you have a structure that would represent, like, a 3D model's, like, vertex buffer and stuff like that, it would be serialized in such a way that the Reclaimer could just put it straight into a struct out of a file. I think that's my puppy. You want to say hi again?
Sorry, I'm just getting diet.
You can. Your phone's up here, too. She's a little potato head, little ball of mischief. We love her very much, though. Well, we're approaching the 7 o'clock mark, and at that point, we will go ahead and get rocking on with the, like, it's going to be a callback that's like create if not exists, like, or open and create if not exists, or something like that. So we're just going to rock on with that and just go from there. And of course, anybody is free to ask questions at any time. I'd be happy to answer them, and but I may have to, like, wait if I'm on a train of thought until, you know, I finish it. And also, I've got a whiteboard here, Microsoft Whiteboard, and if there's anything we want to work through, or, like, if you have questions, feel free to ask them. So I'm going to save the stream notes as well. So I'll probably put those as a link in the archive description on my YouTube. So, oh, I forgot that I had it open here. I literally stayed up all night a couple days ago. I was up all night working on this part of the code. And it was... I know I'm going on a tangent here, but I just got to talk about... One, the code that I wrote was absolutely awful. The troubleshooting... I haven't stayed up all night working on something since college. Or, like, if I had to do a night shift at a job or something like that. And that was very rare. But, so... there's a way that you can share memory between processes on Windows, and I'll see if I can find it, because this documentation is probably one of the, like, for those that are not aware, the Windows API has been around for a very, very, very long time. Like, it's probably older than... Like, it's older than me. It's older than... Like, it is probably something like over 30 to 40 years old. It is insane how old it is. But anyway, let me go ahead and just open a web browser. And I just want to show you all this if I can find it. So, I think it was like Windows API shared, Windows DLL shared memory or something like that. And I'm trying to find, like, where it was, because it was, like, in the days of Windows NT, NT, which stands for New Technology. And it's been around since... It's like... The article on how to do this was written in, like, 1993. It's insane. And I would love to find it. Like, it's somewhere... Like, here's one from 2008. But, yeah, I don't know where it is. It was a document. I may have it saved. I may have sent it to myself. No, I did not. Okay. But anyway, so the basic idea is that when you load a file off disk into RAM on Windows, you create a record, like a file map record in memory, and like any process can access it. Like, I think they have to have like the right privileges and stuff like that. And I could be wrong, but it's like, but essentially you create like a file map that's in memory, and it's there by name. Like, it actually has a name. You can query based on that name, and you can... And it will represent, like, you can use it to access the data that's in a file. Well, if you want to create shared memory, like, between processes, like how I'm doing is, I want to make it so I don't have to do all this drudge work of, like, re-importing APIs over and over and over again across, like, different DLLs and stuff like that. So what I did was I loaded an instance of a DLL, like all of its libraries and function pointers and stuff, into like a single struct, and I just set that like for a specific library, and I just create a shared memory map. And the process of doing that was awful. Like, it is absolutely terrible. Like that memory map I was talking about for a file, you can just sort of do that process yourself and just create a record in memory of whatever it is that you want. And any process can query Windows by that name. And when I said that I do it exactly how Windows tells me to do it, and it doesn't fucking work. Like, I don't know how else to say it. So, for instance, I know I'm going on a tangent here, but no one's here anyway. Win32, I think it was like, create file mapping. There we go. Create file mapping example in SDN. Is it here? File mapping. Oh, this is the thing that I saw. That was referenced in that document I was talking about. Like it was very, very old. Like this process of doing this in Windows has been around for a very long time. The Windows API has been like torn apart and rebuilt for decades. Just if there's anybody that wasn't aware of how old it was. Like, I have a lot of respect for it, but it is an absolute mess. Like, I'm not a huge fan of how they did things, but it's like, what else are you supposed to do? It's like, you know, Windows does some things that are very well. There's functions that have been... There's methods that, like, all programs use that have been around for a very, very long time. Like, it's... And there's things that, like, if you're compiling... Like, if you do something like call alloc or malloc and free in C, that is going to compile down to code that calls the Windows API anyway. So if you want to save a little bit of execution time, and like, if you're only doing it like once on startup, it would probably be trivial, but just it would reduce the overall overhead to just call it yourself. It's cumbersome. The Windows API is extremely cumbersome to use. It's very intimidating to look at. But once you get the idea of how it likes to do things, like, it just takes a little bit of just diving in and getting your hands dirty and practice, and eventually you'll learn. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and start creating our new endpoint for creating this asset file if it doesn't exist. Right. So I guess we can go ahead and just put it at the bottom. It's not really going to matter. And so what's going on here when I read the file? Because I think what I'm doing is, first what I do is I call Windows and I say, what's the file size? Like, how much memory do I need to allocate to open this thing? And then once I have that, I go ahead and copy all the data into a buffer. So that's essentially gonna be my indicator for, if it's 0, it doesn't exist, essentially. Or, like, there may already be a file, but what's the point if it's 0 bytes? You might as well just recreate it. So, I think that's what I'm gonna do. That's a way around that. So, I know I'm being a little bit lazy, but it's a quick and dirty way of getting things up and running, which I'm all about. So let's go ahead and go back to our asset file. So callbacks. So what I'm essentially going to do here is I'm just going to go here and I'm going to determine how big the file is. And if it's 0 bytes, I'm just going to go ahead and create it. So but first we need to do a lookup on that type, and I did not want VS Code to do that. Get rid of all of that. That's just nasty. So anyway, we're gonna do switch on the type, and first we're gonna do the well, actually we could make it the last case, so reclaimer asset reclaimer file type unknown, and we can essentially make that the default case. So this is another way of saying, for like, if you don't insert a break statement and you just go straight into the next statement, it will execute. And that's why you have to have a break statement in you have to have a break in a switch statement, or else it'll just keep executing everything. Well, is that enough to do an assertion with? I think I'm gonna do that for now. You know what? We're gonna allocate some space for that asset file. It's just confusing because, and this is the frustrating thing, is I don't know if it's a good idea. Like, I didn't know if it was a good idea for me to stream live because I didn't. It's like, you're gonna see my thought process throughout, everything that's going on, right? So, you know what? We're going to return a handle. We're going to return a handle. And so a memory handle in context of the reclaimer is like, I allocate all of my memory up front. So when the game starts, I just say, give me an X number of gigabytes of RAM up front. And through Windows Virtual Alloc, you can request it to give you however much memory you want. And it'll set up a committed size of like, hey, this is how much you've requested, and this is how much you've used. Now, you could request like 4 terabytes. Like, you can, like, at some point it's going to fail. But you can request Windows to be like, hey, here's a pointer to that memory that will grow and shrink as you use more of it and return it. So, but I essentially just say upfront, Windows, give me, like, right now it's only 2 gigabytes. And so how I think of it is that 2 gigabytes as an array of bytes. It's like 2-point-something billion bytes wide. And so the handle is the index in that array. And that's pretty much it. So when you see mem handle, that's all you're looking at. So anyway, we are going to go ahead and start just adding that in. But first, we will need to read those. We're just going to return null here. And that should be good enough. But we need to determine if we need to create it, right? So get file size. And that's going to be, let's see, 32. And asset file size is going to be get file size of reclaimer asset file type textures, and we're going to say the path equals is just nothing right now, just empty string. And we're going to say, in this case, it's going to equal reclaimer asset file path file textures. Is that it? Yes. Yep. And so, oops, path. So that's how we're going to do that. We have to actually determine like what the actual path is. You know what? I got an even better idea of how we could do that. We could just have a static table, right? So check this out. No, not there. Asset file .hpp. And so what we can do here is we already know that these are basically these are going to be values that go like 0, 1, etc., etc. And so what we can do is we can just make a static table because we know there's only going to be a certain limited number of them. So we can just say const reclaimer asset file table or file path table, because let's be real, it's only the no, it's an array of structs, or it's an array of strings. My bad. So const string, and I think string is just like const char. Yeah. String, and it's gonna be equals string reclaimer asset file paths equals, and essentially remember these are indexes. These can serve as indexes because they start at 0 and they'll go up. So we can essentially just say unknown is gonna be just null 0, and we can say that textures, which will be 1, is gonna be reclaimer asset file textures, right? And so this should save us time just by looking up in this table. So what we can say is path equals reclaimer asset file paths based on the type. And there we go. That's it. And then we'll get the file size of the I like to be verbose, because it's like there's no way anything can be misinterpreted. I know it's a lot of typing, but that's okay. Why did everything fail? Probably because I put that in the wrong place. Let's start with the assets file. What am I doing wrong here? eClaimer asset file textures. It's right there. What if I just did const char? What if I did that? Is it mad that I used a string? Yeah, I don't know why it's so upset. Okay, that was valid. So why is this not valid? Oh, that's... duh. Alright. Because I always do this. Like, I always put friggin' semicolons at the end of, like, my constant, or, like, my pound defines. So... oh, boy. Just silly stuff. I'm always chasing my tail over silly stuff. Okay. So for now, we're just gonna return null. Like, we haven't implemented this yet, so we still don't really know what direction we're taking this quite yet. But anyway, that should be everything. Or at least allow everything to build now. So, let's go ahead and close that. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna assert that the asset file path, yeah, we're just gonna assert that it's not null, right? And so remember, at least checking in C, like, if something can be null, like, if something is equivalent to, like, if not null. And I think there's, like, branching on equals, it costs less than branching on not equals. Like, it would nest your code a little bit more, but with the rules of logic and assembly, like, this is less expensive than that. I don't know how, I don't know why, but it just is. So anyway, we're going to do that, and then if the asset file size equals 0, we're going to have to create it. So now what we'll do is we'll just make this one internal, and we'll say, like, this will do the allocation for the memory handle. Well, it'll do the allocation for, like, the handle to the file for us here, so we don't have to open it again. So reclaimer. Oh, go away, add. Anyway, so if it equals 0, we're gonna create it, basically. Reclaimer assets create asset file. Okay, and so we're also going to be doing the type because we want to put that in there. So what it's essentially going to be is what the first 4 bytes of this file are going to look like is going to be RAF plus the a single byte for the type. So we have a type, and we've already looked up the no, you know what, we'll just do it again. I'm being bad, but what we'll do is we'll say the asset file path is, you know what, I'm not going to be bad. I'm going to make this take a string because we already know that we're past this stage right here. So right, and so what's going to happen here is we already know our type and we already know our asset path. We know where it's supposed to be. So there's no point in querying for something twice, like especially that close. So we know the asset file is 0, and so what we're going to do is we're just going to say reclaimer assets create asset file, and we're going to pass in the type and the asset file path, and we're going to say we don't need that yet, so we're going to say mem handle asset file handle that equals null right now, and what we'll say is asset file handle equals that. Right? So now we can go up here and we will go ahead and create the file. And I believe that there is an option to create a file if it doesn't exist already, like in the Windows API. So that's the platform. So IO read and null terminate file, create file, open existing. There we go. See, I'm just thinking. Yeah. So here's what I'm going to do here. In this read and null terminate file, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass in a boolean with a default value, create if not exist, and that's going to be false, because by default usually I don't want it to create a new file. Like this is the first time I'm actually using the Reclaimer's code to create a file. So, and also this should allow the rest of the code to not break. So if I go to over here and go to types, I can say that where's read and null file read and null terminate, and I can say b32 create if not exists. But this all still should work because default. That's the beauty of passing things in as default values. You don't have to just recompile everything anymore. But its default value. Does it have to happen here? Can I do that? Default arguments are not allowed. Doggone it. Alright, that won't work. Oh well, that's okay. That's okay. We'll just find all the instances. And we will change it. But we have to know ahead of time what the allocated buffer size is, which is going to be the confusing part. So anyway, what we can do here is pass in so basically if create if not exist, or we can just say create if not exist. We don't need to actually use an if statement. Create if not exist will say open new. Well, let's see what the arguments are. So this is where we're going to have to look up the Windows API. Let's see. Share right. Create always. Create new. Creates a new file only if it does not already exist. You know what? We could just... I feel kind of dumb. But we could just... create new. And then... because we could just do that in the first place, right? No, I think we're on the right track. So, let's just do that then. So, we'll go ahead and build everything again, and we will find where it failed and just fix it. And it's mostly going to be here. So, like file load, I do not want to create it, and we'll just say false. And then the other place. So assets should be passing now. No. Okay, let's go ahead and return all here as well. Let's go to, just make sure that passes real quick, and then go to rendering. Yeah, because I think here's where I open the shaders. This is also something I'd like to have hard-coded, hard-code the shaders just so there's less stuff to open, less files to read, rather. So read and we'll terminate file, and then this is just going to be false. That should be everything, I think. All right. Excuse me. I'm definitely having a victory beer when this is over. I normally do all the talking in my head. Made me sound kind of crazy just there. But anyway, let's go ahead and go back to the asset file here. But here, we are actually going to do an assert. Like, we have to have a... we have to have an asset file at this point. So, so if I were to say... Actually, let's go back to the I.O. Do I assert... Well, I'm asserting... I think if something went wrong at that point, we would know it. So I don't know if there's a need for a double assertion there. So, I'm just going to say that it's safe to move on at that point, because I think if there was something wrong at that point, the Windows API code would not let us proceed. And we got about a little more than 20 minutes until 8, at which point there will be another break. And I'll do another comfort break just to fill up my water. And if anyone's in the chat, it would be a good time to ask questions at that point. So... I'm gonna go ahead. I think I can hear the music in my headset, and so, but like I have it the microphone configured where I can also hear my voice. So you know what? I'm just gonna go ahead and turn that off. Go ahead and mute that. At least until the ad goes away. Sorry guys, I'm cheap. Anyway, so what we're going to do here is we're going to well, you see, this is what I was thinking. So what we can do is we can just say APIs dot platform dot read. Well, you see, that's the thing. Yeah, I am gonna have to split that up because we actually have to put the data in there, right? So, and hey, it looks like we got someone joined. Welcome. If you could, if there's someone new in the chat, just kind of let me know how things are sounding. You know, if you can hear me okay. So what we're going to do here is we actually have to put the file contents together that are going to represent our asset file. Let's go ahead and turn the music back up now. Okay. So what we can do, the file header, yeah, if there's someone else in the, it looks like we got, I think maybe our first person. So if everything's sounding okay or if things are kind of sounding off, just let me know. Please don't be a bot. So what we're going to do is we're going to say asset file header. Oh, hey, what's up? Yeah, just, is everything okay with the sound? Awesome, thank you. So, I think you're the first person I'm actually talking to, but I'll give you a little background. This is a game that I'm making from the ground up, basically, and we're what I'm working on tonight is the asset table. So it's just a way to sort of consolidate all of the game's assets into one file, exactly how the game will need to open and process them. So these are pre-processed assets that are loaded out of a file to reduce the load time. I guess I can go ahead and actually run the thing so you can see it. Never mind, we actually got our first assertion. Let's try that again. Sorry about that. But anyway, and this is going to look really goofy, but this is what the game looks like right now. And so all of these assets that you see from the skybox and the character's texture here, they're loaded off of actual individual files like bitmaps and 3D model files that are exported from Blender that it reads and loads into memory. And so there's a whole lot of processing that's being done on parsing those files and putting it in a format that the game engine understands. So this is just a way to create an asset table to reduce the load time and sort of consolidate everything. It's something I've been wanting to get to for a while. So, but anyway, thanks for joining. I really appreciate it. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask. I think it's just you and I here right now. So, welcome. So anyway, we want to... Let's kill that, and we'll... Nope. Asset file. And so what we'll do... for right now, we're just going to return null here. And what we're going to do is we're assuming here at this point that the file hasn't been created. And so what we'll do is we'll just take the header data and serialize it directly to a file. And so the verification string is just going to be the reclaimer, I think is it going to be the asset file verification string, which if I put this here, we can just see that the verification string is REF, which stands for reclaimer asset file. Graphics API, OpenGL. So in hindsight, it may have been better to go with DirectX, because I would, just if the opportunity presents itself, I would like this to get on Xbox if I can. It's a long ways off before I'm considering other platforms, but I'll just show you the basic file structure. So for my source here, I try to isolate everything so that if I wanted to replace it, I just create a new library and just maybe use a series of pound defines to, or maybe how the actual code is compiled, to switch it over from OpenGL mode to DirectX mode or something like that. But for specifically the Windows 32 platform, there would probably be a platform for Xbox and a platform for Linux and a platform for PlayStation, or however that would work. I know that developing for console is a bear compared to just writing an application for Windows. But OpenGL is currently what I'm using. So I may migrate to DirectX at some point. It's just OpenGL is what I'm familiar with. And I've heard that the learning curve for OpenGL is a lot steeper. But yeah, currently OpenGL. Yeah, exactly. So graphic API abstract layer. Yeah, you got it. So yeah, pretty much. There's I essentially want to have ways of just like, hey, I need to load this model, and it can be done in either DirectX or OpenGL. Um, uh, I'll take a look at that. I'll just kind of show you what I got going on. So for rendering OpenGL, uh, I don't use interfaces or like this is mostly C code compiled in C++ mode. Um, Using things like classes and templates introduces a lot of unnecessary overhead that I'm not particularly a huge fan of, and I want to keep things very cache friendly. Uh, so that's essentially just the state of the rendering library at the moment. Okay, so we'll set that, and then the asset file header dot. Do you have any experience yourself with game development? Like, do you use any like engines or have any titles? Oh man, Vulkan. I've heard that one's like the. It's becoming really popular, and there's a lot more. I guess hurdles to jump through to get it like up and running. Like I know OpenGL can be bad sometimes, but from what I've heard about Vulkan, kudos. Well done. Have you gotten the like I think I saw like memes of like like everything that goes into like rendering a basic triangle, like the hello triangle thing. Like what do you think of Vulkan versus like well you said it was your gateway into computer graphics. Like what do you think of it so far? Armchair game engine enthusiast. Everybody's got to start somewhere, man. Like this is kind of where I'm starting. I've been an engineer for about a decade, like in the software engineering realm. I've always had an affinity for games and just wanted to. It's sort of my bucket list item thing to, at some point, like be in the credits for a game, whether it's something I help work on or publish myself, and just sort of this is my way of getting into that. But yeah, good conversation, man. Thanks for showing up. So. Do you have a favorite title at the moment? Type of game that you're interested in? Or like favorite genre? Like what? Like you say you're if you're a enthusiast, a game engine enthusiast. Like, do you have like a specific like atmosphere of, I guess, games that you like to work on? Because like this, like as an example, this one's going to be mostly like, sort of like very dark, like horror type stuff. Kind of like Lovecraftian type, you know. And I'll be taking a just a heads up. I'll be taking a 5-minute comfort break in about 10 minutes, at around the 8 o'clock mark, and I'll be back to continue working on this. And it would be a good time to answer any more questions. So essentially, with the let's see what we got. Just drew a triangle a couple days ago. Quite a lot of work. If you write it in pure C, it took a thousand lines to draw a triangle. Took quite a while to understand the concepts and stuff, not just the API, to give more knowledge about how graphic cards work than OpenGL. Yeah, that is consistent with what I heard of Vulkan. What OpenGL what I found of OpenGL is it teaches you a lot about the graphics pipeline, but if Vulkan really teaches you to like get down and dirty with like the hardware of how like things that are going under the hood as you like set up that graphics pipeline. I've heard of it, but I'm a little anxious that I would fall down a rabbit hole of like trying to migrate everything over, but I think I may like if I'm gonna migrate anything to anything, it would probably be DirectX. Because I would love to get this on like if it ever releases, it would probably be on Steam and the Xbox Store. So I think like the originating like where the term Xbox came from was DirectX in a box. So and it just doesn't support OpenGL natively. Let's see. DirectX 12 is quite good. Yeah. I think DirectX has like the shallowest learning curve of the most popular graphics APIs. But like OpenGL is like OG graphics library. Like it's been around for decades. And I think Microsoft had a chance to make like OpenGL like its flagship like graphics API. And instead they chose to go with DirectX. And I know DirectX does a lot more than graphics, because I know there's like DX3D and DX Sound, DX Input. Like DirectX, is a entire framework of different development APIs. So, but it's like, they're Microsoft. They want to go their own way and do everything themselves. So, I was talking about there was something that I was working on with shared memory, and the documentation I found on it was from 1993. Like it is the Windows API is like over 3 decades old, and I followed the documentation on like shared memory exactly how the MSDN told me to do it, and it didn't work. Like it just straight up didn't work. But that's Microsoft for you. It only gets worse with time. Is there a specific platform you're developing for? Like I would like would it be Windows? And the music goes out every now and then because I'm cheap and there's ads on this copyright-free synthwave playlist. So I do appreciate you bearing with me. This is a good conversation, though. It's been a lot nicer than just talking into the void. So. There is a way around this. What we could do is... I don't like the idea of doing it this way, but you can reinterpret a string as just an array of bytes. So you can, like, as a quick and dirty way of doing this, you can just say byte 1, byte 2, byte 3, and that should work. So I'm going to go ahead and, I mean, I hate doing it that way, but, you know, just to get things up and running. And it's only 3 bytes. It's not like it's gonna... And this is just a way of ensuring that we've opened a valid asset file. And so you can so the term RAF stands for Reclaimer Asset File. And this header verification is just a way of, you know, I open the first 3 bytes of the file, serialize that, and just assert that it's going to be like an RAF file. Python not performance enough for high fidelity game. You probably need an engine below it. Code an entire game in Python? So it depends on what you're trying to do. And I appreciate the question. Wait. That's my wife. That's my wife. Okay. Get out of here. Yeah, I see you laughing. So you missed this earlier, but there was like a pre-stream chat where my wife and I were on, and she created an account just to troll me while I was, I was about... And one thing she laughs at me about is how I answer... It's like she will ask me a question like entirely out of left field that's like entirely like theoretical or what's the term, hypothetical, and I'll just answer completely serious, like it's as if a what if article, like, you know, is it possible to, you know, build a 1-billion-story skyscraper or something, and I'll just like, well, if you wanted to do that, it's like she tries to just see if just like I'm in those modes of like... So I was about to answer seriously. So if you were a stranger, I would be like, my priority is that you feel encouraged. But as as someone who is a Python programmer, my wife, I would say no. You know how you work with Python all the time. You know how bad it is. But anyway, no, it's whatever gets you. In all seriousness, there's a lot of gatekeeping in this community. Don't get a... don't allow people to discourage you from doing what you want to do. If you want to make a game in Python, do it. If you want to make a web-based game using JavaScript or make something in C# or Scratch for that matter, whatever gets your foot in the door. And whatever gets you learning, let that journey be your own and nobody else's. However, there are things that are facts, right? So, for instance, things that are structuring your data in such a way that is cache-friendly is going to be faster to access those things than if they were not cache-friendly. Another example is exception-handled code is orders of magnitude slower than non-exception-handled code. Like, those things are facts. You can't get around those. If your goal is to live within that realm of performance, those are some things you need to keep in mind. But if you just want to get something do something that gets your feet off the ground, gets you learning. Small steps, right? Because, and a really good example of this, like, look up this is freaking hilarious. The source code release for Yandere Simulator, the code is so bad. It is hilariously bad. But the game itself is, like, hilarious as well. So, it's like they did things for, like, imagine a permutation of every single face that a clock could have, like a digital clock. Oh yeah, the Yandere Simulator, you heard of it. Like, look up the videos of people reviewing. I think it was like a programmer reviews the source code for Yandere Simulator, and the thing that stood out to me was what they did for clock faces. Like, imagine a digital clock. There's like nested if statements for literally every single digit that could be on that clock. It's insanity. And it's like, why couldn't they have just made like a hash table that's like, if the clock reads this, have just a hard coded table that retrieves the proper asset? It's like, there's probably a better way to do it, but it's like, I can tell you that's somewhere in the middle. Like, in terms of like, not, it's like, may not be the best, but it's sure as hell not the worst thing. So, anyway. But Yandere Simulator is such a hilariously, like, it's good in that it's really, really funny. And, you know, people have, you know, there's an entire community built around it. So, and that's a game made in Unity and entirely C#. Don't let people tell you what you can't do. You know, it's just like, keep in mind the things that, you know, like, there's certain things where performance lives. If you want to make things extremely performant, there's things you're going to have to consider. But if not, I say whatever keeps you productive, whatever keeps you happy, and don't listen to any gatekeepers out there. You know, their priority should be getting more people into the hobby, not keeping them out of it. So that's what I have to say about that. And on that note, I'm going to take a quick comfort break, and I'll be back in about 10 minutes, okay? I'm going to go ahead and set a timer, or not 10 minutes, 5 minutes. But such a great conversation. So, yeah, give me like 5 minutes, and I'll be right back, okay? Oops, I forgot to hit the record button. So there was the 30 minutes that was lost, but that's okay. Undefined behavior? What do you mean by undefined behavior? Because there's an array that is the same size as there are number of functions. And so with a union, a reference to one is a reference to the other, if that makes sense. So the function pointer, and like, as long as they are in the right order, they share the same memory. So it's literally just calling one by type, and it should just work. And it's also a way to do it programmatically, so I don't have to hard code, hey, load this specific one. I just update the array of function names, add the new function pointer, and it just works. So, apologize to anyone watching who just witnessed that. Or watching in the future the archive, I forgot to hit the record button. So, I'm just, I hit the, like, stop recording on a break, so. But how it used to be is all of those function pointers were hard-coded. So I would say, like, load this at this function, like, get prog address for that function, get prog address for this function. Instead, now I can just do it iteratively. if you're doing things in C, get used to very unsafe things. Um, it's you definitely have to like. I definitely agree that um, it opens the door to bad things happening, um, or at least like quote unquote improper things. I'm not a huge fan of unions, and honestly, I saw that in tutorial, and I was like, "What the hell is going on?" And then I realized it's like, "Oh, that's what's happening." Um, and honestly, it was just convenient. Uh, I have no doubt that there's things that I'm doing that are just gonna make people go, whiskey tango foxtrot, because there's well, for one, it's mostly C code, and so I'm pretty sure people would be like, "Why don't you like use a game engine or something?" Which is, that's a fair argument. Like it would be done a lot faster, and um, it's just kind of the way I settled on doing stuff, which I am. I know that there's a better way of doing things, and this is sort of like my goal here for this push for what I'm doing is to like put a playable demo together, which I hope that I can do sometime in 2023. I don't know how long that's going to take. Hopefully, I can get it done by this time next year, and it should be ready to like, get some professional assets made for it, and start looking to pitch this to like Indie Fund or something like that. So, because there's no way I can do it myself. It's going to need some funding. But I'm just trying to get maybe a community behind it, see who's interested in the project, and see if I can just get some people talking about it. So I appreciate you bringing up those topics, man. But anyway, this is going to be a good time to see what it's like to look up the MSDN. So MSDN Win32 write file. So if you're doing anything in Microsoft, the MSDN is going to be your best friend. So let's see. So it's pretty much just going to be the same thing as read file, or is it like read and null terminate? And so like null terminate is exactly how it sounds. It's like I have like a fixed, like I know how big the data is that I need to read off that file or whatever, or because like what I do is I say get me the file size, and I will allocate that +1 for a null terminator. So that way, if I had to just iterate through the file, like find in a file, just go until you find a null. Go until you get null, and then that's how I know I've reached the end of the file. Or like the null character right there. So we're gonna make this internal void Win32 write file. And so what that's going to take is it's going to take the string, the file path, and it's going to take a pre-allocated buffer that has the data in it. And my wife is making fudge tonight, and she let me know that there are utensils that are ready to lick, and I think I will definitely oblige. So she can drop in and say hi too, and maybe pitch some stuff that she's doing. She's writing a book. She's writing a novel. And unlike mine, her project is closer to completion. So, so let's see. We've got the file path. We've got mem size, which is going to be allocated, which is just going to be. And I like to say allocated buffer because I want to reiterate this buffer needs to be allocated. It can't be null. I'm not going to allocate it for you. Hello. Oh, there you are. Thank you.
Enjoy.
I'm just going to hoe down on this spoon.
I gotta get back when the cat's gonna be licking the bowl out. I gotta...
That's no good.
Yeah.
Oh, that is delicious. I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to turn my camera off really quick while I lick this spoon. Anyway, okay. I'm gonna turn that back on. Sorry, that is delicious. Let's see. Have ads playing, and I would rather they did not. Okay. Where were we? Yes. Just licking the spoon. Yeah, there's some people have been doing like ASMR streams of programming, which I guess I can kind of get behind. There is something so satisfying about the sound of a mechanical keyboard, like one that, one of the higher end ones. I mean, I just use a DOS keyboard, like is it DAS keyboard, DIS keyboard, DOS keyboard. I'd love to like make a DIY keyboard someday, but that day is not today. I have a little I'm up here in my attic. There's like a little shop with like 3D printers and stuff. I'm into drones. I haven't like done drones in a long time since I lost my FPV drone in a lake a few months ago, and a friend and I who lives in the neighborhood, he mentioned he has kayaks. So we put on some life vests, went on the lake, and tried to fish this drone out of the lake, and we did not find it. Well, we did find leeches. So, he was, reaching into the water for something, off the edge of his kayak, and he pulled his arm out, and he's like, oh, there's leeches in here. And I'm like, fuck this. I'm out. So, we did not find anything. We drug a magnet around, we drug a net, and we just could not find it. There's, zero visibility on that lake. Anyway. So we got a file path, we got an allocated buffer, and let's see. What was it? Set shared memory, read and all terminate file. Create if not exists. Why not? Got the allocated buffer, and let's see. We're just gonna say create if not exists. Honestly, I think if we can get to the point where we're creating the asset file, that would be a good stopping point. And then we can just shoot the shit for a little bit. I'm definitely having a victory beer when this is done. And so, read and all terminate. And so I'm going to assert that we have a allocated buffer. And then the creating the file handle is pretty much, it's pretty much the same thing, except we're going to change a couple of flags. And like I said, the Windows API can be a little intimidating to look at, but once you get used to like how it likes to do things, it's pretty consistent with how it does stuff. There's a couple of exceptions, like doing the shared memory was absolutely awful. Like I was doing what it told me to do for shared memory, and it just did not work. Like it was like, okay, you need to create the handle for the shared memory, and then you need to write your data and then close it. But if you close the handle, it removes your memory, and then when you try to access it again, it's like, hey, I can't find it. So I did exactly what it told me to do, and it was wrong. So I don't know. I might see if I can file a bug report about that or something, because that's like, hey, you should change your documentation or something, or tell me what I missed. Right. So what was I looking for? It was the second argument. So they usually have examples, like where you can actually see what they're doing. But I know I'm going to need this. So the desired access is what I'm looking for. Generic, right. Yeah, pretty much. It's going to be generic right. Share right. And existing attribute normal, flag overlapped, null. Okay, that should give us the handle to a file we can write to. And then we will write to the file. And I think we're also going to need that callback, because Windows wants us to have a function that will tell us how many bytes it successfully wrote to the file, which I think is going to be the completion routine. So which is going to be the file handle, and that's going to be the allocated buffer and the number of bytes to write, allocated buffer size, and the bytes written. Is that how that works? No. Or is it like EX? Yes. Okay, there we go. Just gonna copy this from up here. Right. And so for the overlap data, it's a lot of stuff for just writing to a file, but you know, welcome to the Windows API. Then so that should do that. And then we're just going to do another assertion that we have a read result. Like, it's very similar code, and then we're just going to close the handle. Right. Now, I may want to do something where I get a file handle, because I don't... The time where I want the reclaimer to be able to read from this file is all the time. So, all the time. I want it to have access to the asset table. Like, there's never going to be a time when I don't want to have access to it. So, I think I may have a way to get that handle and store it so I don't have to keep opening it from the disk. So, and we're just going to assert that we have a read result. And I'll be taking another comfort break at 9 o'clock. So, and it'll, like before, it'll just be for 5 minutes. I'm going to eat this fudge. My wife makes the best fudge, y'all. Okay. So we have that, and so in our types, we are going to say we have we're just going to have another pointer in here to file write. I don't think there's going to be a point to null terminating it, because it's like you you want it null terminated in memory, but I don't care if it's null terminated on the file, right? Because it's like Windows should be able to tell me how big the file is, so I don't really care if it's null terminated in the file, because it's like, if you think about it, if you read it, null terminate it, and then write it, I mean, it's just another check that you don't have to do. Like, I just don't care. So, there are times when you should care about certain things. Like, I care about getting things off the drive, but I don't care if they come to me null terminated. So, I think that's it. And then we just add that to our list of callbacks in the platform. So, let's see, where's the platform code? Dot. Okay. Now let's see if our Win32 code builds. It does not. Okay, we'll go to IO. Alacatgid? Alacatgid. Brilliant. Okay. And then fix that. Okay, so we should have our pointer to write file now, and what we want to do is we are going to go back to assets.cpp, and we're the asset header asset file.cpp, and then we're just going to write that to the file. So what we can do is I don't know what the best way of doing that is, because And honestly, we could just reinterpret that as an array of bytes. We should like we don't even have to like mem copy it. You know what I mean? So like let's go ahead and bring up the IO here, and it could literally just be, hey, I want you to reinterpret this as bytes, and it should just do it. So here's what I'm gonna do, and this could be crazy, but I'm gonna take metadata, and it's gonna be asset file header data, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the asset file header, we're gonna take the address of that, we're just gonna cold cast it to the reclaimer's version of a null pointer, and we should just be able to index that. So if we go to the debugger and let's see what sort of nonsense that did. Put a breakpoint here, and then we'll see what we got. Oh, something bad happened. What happened? Oh wait, I should probably look at the call stack. File path is null. Textures.raf. Did I not pass in a type? I thought I did, though. Interesting. Well, let's see how we can undo this. I think the music is playing now. I just have my desktop audio like way too low. Just copyright free synthwave genre type music. But so in the core library, I should be calling that using the textures. Yeah, which is like 1. Right? So if you look at this, that's 1, and that's 0. So load asset file of type. And I don't know why I didn't like that. Don't need this. Is there something I forgot to build? Oh, I should actually stop the debugger. But I would say, I know it's been kind of a slow night, but if I can successfully write to the create and write to the file, that'd be awesome. I'm not too concerned about getting usable data in there yet. It's just like, hey, can we successfully create it? And if we can, we're in good shape. So anyway, let's start here. What the heck? That doesn't make any sense. It does it just fine doing it that way for the entity system. So, uh, so if I were to, not that, open and go to asset file, and I were to just like place, yeah, unknown is textures should be 1, right? Yeah. So why in the heck would it do that? I do not know. That's interesting, though. Because I can't think of a reason why passing that type would cause it to do that. Like, you saw that, right? It was, like, just garbage in its memory space. So I don't... When in doubt, just build again. It's like the equivalent of, like, hey, my car is stuck on the side of the road. I'm gonna open the hood and pretend like I know what I'm doing. Just build it again. So, what if it was just a U8? Like, let's see what happens. No, I don't want to open a new instance. But if I were to do that, like, let's see what happens, because the enum is based off of a byte. Unsigned byte. So let's see if that works. And that didn't work. What the hell? I wonder, is the function pointer not loaded correctly? We could check that. So what if the let's check that. Assets API, but load asset file. Asset file type. I'm just making it a unsigned byte. Load asset file, load asset file. Yeah, it's fine. I don't know why I wouldn't want to do that. But, like, this is literally how I'm doing it in the entity system. So, like, I have these component types that are, like, I'll have, like, a big array of, component types, or, like, I've indexed stuff using enums before. I don't know why it has I don't know why it has an aversion to doing that. Any ideas? I swear, it's like, this is one of those things I call stupid problems, because it's like, you figure it out and you're like, oh, I'm so stupid. Like, that's gonna be me in about 5 minutes. But anyway, let's see what that did. So let's pull up our handy dandy RemedyBG again, and we get there, and then the type is what? 48. Really? That makes no sense. The type should be 1. That doesn't make a lick of sense to me. Okay, if I pass in 1, like just the number 1, then I know that there's a serious problem. Like, there's something screwy going on with how it's loading that function pointer. See, it did it again. Like, I don't know why it's doing that. So, I verified that that doesn't make any sense. I would really like to get this done. Memory alignment. It could be. But it like passed in garbage, so it's like it has to be. It has to be with how the function's loaded into how the function pointer's loaded, I would think. That is so friggin' weird. I've never had that happen before. It's the first night for a bunch of stuff, apparently. There's going to be a hard stop for tonight's stream at 10 o'clock. I'd love to get this done in the next couple of minutes, just to verify that we can write to a file. Assets API. Let's see. We have 7 functions. And well, hello there, XTO_V2. Are you a bot? Okay, good. I had someone come in here trying to sling me to do some crypto shit or something. How's it going? So wasn't that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7? I've got 7 methods. Could it possibly be like what? But I don't know, man. Let's just try this. We're gonna try reclaimer assets.hpp, and then we will say, where is it, the asset type? Yeah, asset types. So here's the kind of bad. I just found out my EFT account got banned for no reason. And the support tells me it's my fault. Now I'm trying to change my hardware, but I don't. I do apologize that I don't really know what any of that is, but it doesn't sound good, and I hope things get better. But either way, you could be spending your valuable time anywhere, and you're choosing it to spend it here, and I'm grateful for that. So, let's see. Just go here, and we'll just say that. Now let's. I don't think it would be the size of the variable, but I'm still curious, because if it's corrupted, then it's not pointing. It's like, it's almost like the address that it's pointing to and the signature of the function are different. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I've seen similar instances like that before, but it was usually like obvious, like, oh duh, the function pointer's not loaded correctly, but everything is looking kosher. And I'd be really curious, WhatsApp, like, I'd be curious if that's actually, like, you were concerned about some stuff with, like, it being in a union, like, if that was actually what it was. It's like, it's like, you're jinxing my stream, man. Nah, I'm just joking. I'm happy to have you here. You've brought up some really good questions, and I really appreciate it. So, let's see. Okay, so let's fix the, I think we fixed the stub already. No. Okay. Asset API. And then for asset file load, we are going to say that, and it's just going to be type. And then we're just going to see if that got us, like, we just need that value. It's like, it's just, it needs to be the number 1, because it's the second index, right? So when I make an enumeration and logic is based on it, I usually like to have a default of, like, the first one is null, so it's like there's a default action for when it's like unknown, or not null, yeah, like there's the first option in an enum is unknown, so that if there's a default option, like, hey, I have no idea what this is, it'll just know what to do. So, let's core.cpp. Come on. Let's just, we're just going to do that. I wanted it to only be 1 byte, because now that it's using 4 bytes, so it's 32 bits wide instead of 8. I really didn't want it taking up that much space, but I mean, we can always make it better later. Right now, we just wanted to get it working. It's like, get it working first and then make it work better. See, it's doing it again. It's doing it again. It's like it. It's like the signature of the function is completely wrong. Like, here's one final test that I can do. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pass in just a straight up integer. And it's just going to be 5. The number 5. And so I can go to the function types and the asset file load. Load old, load file, load it. Wait a minute. No, that looks right. Like, it's pointing to the proper location. Like, I was wondering if I used the wrong signature or something like that. Create reclaim asset file. That could be something. Let's go to crap. Is it asset? Because I have this generic like load asset file, and I was gonna rename it to like I eventually said I was gonna rename it to like load file, just not an asset file. It's just like, hey, reclaim your assets, load file. Like pretty much anything that's loaded off of disk by the game, other than like shaders, is pretty much gonna be an asset file. So if I go to assets or types, it's like load file. I'm gonna call it like old or something. Yeah, I thought that's what I did. Assets, file load, old file. Asset file load. Yeah, because this is the one that was being deprecated. And right away, that doesn't match either. So I don't know what the hell I was doing. So, let's see. Let's see if we can fix that really quick. Asset file load. Well, no, that is correct. Yeah, let's just keep going down this path. I do apologize for getting stuck on this, because this is kind of silly. I'm just going to say, I don't know, Q32X. And then we're going to go to asset file .cpp, and then just say again that's a U32 test. That's what we're gonna say. Now, if I can correctly pass a integer to that function, then I know that has to be something with how I'm with something up with that enum, but I can't. I keep thinking memory corruption. Oh, that's what's up with that one. Because I have to actually update the pound define. Now let's see what that did. It's still wrong, but that is very curious because now this test is what this asset type is supposed to be. So if I were to change it to type unknown, yeah, then the next one would be then that test value would be 0, right? So there it is. Yeah, 0. See that? I think, what the hell is appropriate for why it's doing that? I have no idea. So that's really disappointing. Because I don't know if I'm going to be able to fix that in time. So for the Reclaimer asset library, assets API function count, assets API function names. Shared memory, the size of the assets API. And let's come back here and see what our function definitions look like. I would say if we can't get this resolved in like the next 5 minutes, I'm just gonna go to like a Q&A if anybody wants to do that, and we'll just look at some other things, just talk if there's an interest in that. Would anybody be interested in doing like a Q&A in a few minutes? Like I really wanted to get that done, but I want to end the stream on a good note for those that were able to make it tonight. So there's going to be a hard stop at 10 o'clock. So let's go to go to source and Win32 game libraries, because there's definitely something really weird going on with that function definition. So we're gonna stop here. No, not memory. Assets. And let's take a look at the assets API. And so the function pointer yeah, that's what it takes in. But you know, it's almost like it's reinterpreting the load file as load asset file, you know what I mean? Because it was passing in garbage. I really don't know. That's disappointing. Because I may have to spend more time on fixing that. I'd rather not do that and waste everybody's time. I'll tell you what, give me just a brief second and let me look something up real quick. Alright. So, I really don't understand why it's doing that. I'm going to take one last look at the stubs in the Assets API and see if that has anything to do with it. And if there's nothing that pops out as being super duper obvious, then we can just say we can call it for the development tonight, and I'll get this done and probably upload a follow-up video to my YouTube channel. So let's go ahead and just clean slate, and let's look up assets API.hpp. Now, let's see what was in the source code. So, in the API, what did I do? So, I literally just changed that. There shouldn't be anything else going on. Yeah, I sincerely don't understand. Because it's like the first variable in that method is garbage, or the first parameter rather, and then we move on to the next parameter, which has the value of what's supposed to be the first one. So I don't understand why it would do that. Why in the world it would do that? Because I didn't really do anything different. So let's just double check our order here. Create, load, close, load image, load FBX, destroy, load asset file. Everything is in the proper everything's in the proper order. And so in the assets API, like when we define some convenience macros down here, so we've got load file, load asset file, so those things are different. It's a confusing problem, man. I don't understand. What I can try, extern C for simpler name mangling. That's actually what my external macro is. So, example, let's see. That's actually what this is. So this external is just a convenience macro for exporting. I like to mark things as like, is it internal to the translation unit? Like, or is it like pretty much everything is either static or external. So, and like there's 3 different definitions for static because how static is interpreted depends on its context. It's the silliest thing in the world. Like, there's static has multiple meanings, depends on how it's used. Let me try one last thing. And if that doesn't work, I'm going to call it, take a quick convenience break, and I'll be back for just sort of like, we can just chat for a few minutes before 10 o'clock. But yeah, that's disappointing, man. I really wanted to have that nailed before 10 o'clock. But that's okay. We had some really good conversations tonight, and I'm happy about that. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it load as the first function. Like, because I know that, like, everything is very dependent on, like, the ordering of these functions is critical. So, let's just see if that affects anything. Get file size. All kinds of stuff is broken now. Or did it just not rebuild it? So what's null? Is it the... No, the asset path is there. I mean, I think I'm onto something. I have no idea why it would affect that. Like, honest to God, I do not know. Guys, I think for development, I think I'm going to wrap it up for tonight, but we can just go to, we can, like, just check this in, what we got, and I can open up a stable branch for the Reclaimer, the main branch, and if anybody has any questions, we can go to that. But I'm going to take a quick comfort break, and I'll be right back. So, give me just a couple of minutes, 5 minutes, and I'll be right back. So, I'm going to go ahead and do that. And set the break timer. And start. And I'll be right back. Okay, we're back. So here's the plan. I'm just going to go ahead and stash everything that I got. And, you know, we're just going to say debugging the new method for loading asset tables. And we're just going to call it that. And we're going to really quick git checkout main, and that should be the stable branch, and everything should be working. So I actually have to stop the execution of the program before I can build it. So here's to a successful live stream. The first one for the Reclaimer. While that was a particularly annoying problem that I don't know what was going on, and I'm sorry that that's going to persist, because I really wanted to just see what it was like to write files using the Windows API. But other than that, I would say it was a successful time. So Does anybody have any questions? This is going to be a good time for any question and answers if anybody's curious about anything. Ask me anything. I will do my best to answer. I'll just stick around for the next 15 minutes. And we can just talk about stuff. What's up? You still there? What's up? What's up? What's up? What up? What up? What up? Let's see how we're performing under, stream conditions. That's not bad. Right. It's oscillating right around 60 frames a second. I'd really, if I was going to grade myself, if I was going to grade the Reclaimer, it's if it can consistently hit 120 frames per second on, average hardware, that would be great. That's A+. A is 60. And anything below that's... I don't know, man. I feel like there's no reason in 2022 that a game, provided it's, not an absolute resource hog. It blows my mind that computers are so underutilized today. So, there's this great talk, called Data-Oriented Design, and it's on YouTube. It's by a guy named Mike Acton, who was at CPPCon in, 2014 or something like that. At the time, he was the engine director for Insomniac Games, so he knew what he was talking about. But he basically went on stage and was talking about how, most of the things that we do in C++ severely underutilizes the hardware that we work with. It's not an exaggeration to say that if you were to break down if you were to disassemble the code, look at the assembly, it's not an exaggeration to say 90% of the instructions it's doing are unnecessary. That's not a joke. The signal to noise ratio is 10 to 90. It's 10 to... It's absurd. And there is no reason that in 2022 every single game should be consistently hitting 60 FPS, because most modern software today does not take advantage of the hardware that it's built for, and it's programs that are just extremely bloated. They do things that they don't have to do. But that's one reason I'm doing what I'm doing, is because, as you can see, the way that I'm doing things is fraught with peril. You're going to be occasionally debugging, memory-related issues, and those are a pain in the ass. But I would say that the overall reward is worth the investment, because you get a product, this is a product that I'm going to be proud of, Because one of the goals that I have for the product is it's not going to release if it doesn't work. So, that's just one of my goals. Floor's open for anybody who wants to ask any questions. I know it's kind of slim pickings, but ask me anything. This debug interface is I'mGUI, which is one of the few libraries that I'm actually using. it's just a simple way of tracking resource utilization right now. But as an example, this is a very unfinished, unpolished control, but it's just a way for me to control the debug camera. Ideally, I want to, like, there's going to be the player camera, which is obviously going to be over the character's shoulder. This is going to be a third-person game. Let me go ahead and maximize this. But it's going to be over the character's shoulder. Like, I'm thinking something like this. And similar to, like, Last of Us, you can switch perspectives. Like, if you want to look over the left or the right shoulder, you could do that. But I'm thinking, like, I want to just be able to have a list of, like, debug cameras. Like, if I wanted to see something from an enemy's perspective, like, the main character's name is Adam. Like, when Adam gets close to, like, a trigger point, like, what happens at a certain point, and be able to, like, maybe record that or play it back or something like that. Days like this are going to happen, you know? Sometimes you're just going to encounter problems you need to sleep on. It's annoying, but that's just, it is what it is. TOV2, you still with us? I wonder, is there a way for me to check who's actually active? I really don't work with, this is like my first time ever working with Twitch. To this level, at least. I'm thinking there will be more consistent streams, like once a week I'll stream for like an hour and just do question and answers as I work through like minor problems through the code. And maybe once a month I'll do a marathon stream like this. I'm on vacation right now from my day job, and so it was easy to do a Friday, but I think from now on they're probably going to be Tuesdays or Wednesdays maybe. So I will update my schedule probably tomorrow. If there are any donations, they will be used for assets. It's like, I can't guarantee a polished product because I don't really have anything yet. It's a very unfinished product, and like there's not really anything other than just really basic, scaffolding of, something I hope to have later. When I have something that, I have a clearly defined roadmap, I will definitely be okay with, hey, here's a link to the Patreon or something like that. But I can't in good conscience ask for anything while the game is in the state that it is. This is not a product. It's more of a concept, really. So it's mostly a learning experience for me that I would like to turn into a tangible product that people can enjoy. And one of my goals is to, well, it's not really a goal, it's more of a promise. All the budget for this project, from the day that I make the first budget to the day that it's completed, the budget will be open source. Everybody will be able to see, like, there is a website, thereclaimergame.com, and the budget's going to be going up there whenever I have an idea of what basic assets are going to cost. And when I say basic assets, I mostly just mean the main character, Adam. If I can get a better sketch of him done, I'll actually show a little bit of his art. So let's go here, and I will pull up some of his reference photos. So this is what I wanted, kind of like an idea of what I wanted him to look like. Like, he's a soldier that under all of his like garb and armor and stuff, he's basically a cyborg. And he has like military garb like this, and he's been fit with an exosuit and a rebreather. He's basically a super soldier that was designed to reclaim the Earth after a nuclear war, but it was an outside force that wiped all of life out. And I don't know if there would be like any big like moral to the story. There will be more about the story probably later on, but right now I'm just sort of working on the basic game systems. No ads. But about 5 minutes left, and we're gonna call it a day. I do really appreciate everyone who showed up today, and just thank you all so much. I really appreciate it. And there's definitely going to be more coming in the future. There, like, all of my streams are going to be archived and uploaded to my YouTube channel, so feel free to join, and just there'll be a more consistent schedule coming, and the I would say the biggest announcement is definitely going to be the website's coming soon, where you can actually go to subscribe. It'll just be the main hub for all the different accounts. So the YouTube, my Reddit, and a couple of other places. And my Reddit's public. I mean, the only thing I post on there is stuff related to the development of my game, so it's not my main. Any other questions? It's cool if not. Well, thank you for dropping in. We can just chat for a moment. Got a couple more minutes. Please feel free to subscribe if you all liked the stream. Like I said before, it was an annoying problem that I wasn't able to fix that. But hello, love. That's my wife, everybody. She's downstairs trolling me from her own Twitch account that she made. And thank you for the compliment. We got a couple of minutes. TOV2, tell me about yourself. What brought you here to the channel? I do apologize for the annoying, for the music cutting in and out. But I'm cheap, and it was a free playlist. It just comes with ads every few minutes. So, if I could just say some parting words, every journey begins with a first step. Don't let anybody discourage you from doing things that you like. Well, good deal. I appreciate that. Thank you for showing up. But, back to parting words. Do what you love and don't let anybody gatekeep you. Don't let anybody keep you from doing things that you're interested in, and never give up. I'm not someone who's like, it's not a matter of intelligence, it's a matter of sticking with something and not giving up. So that would be my biggest word of advice is, if you find something you like or an interest you have, start on it and just take the next step and the next step and the next step. So with that, I'm going to call it for today. Thanks everybody for showing up, and y'all have a nice night.